Hello? Am I audible, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was just checking if sir. Pag akong tingog or sakto lang? Okay, so happy moist morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
That will
Morning,
be
Morning,
sir.
our
sir.
okay. Hello, hello, hello. That will be our kwan. Our oh. Okay, that will be our kwan. So kana greetings, no? Greetings. Happy moist morning. So anyway, so we'll continue our discussion for our three eyes. Okay. So last time, no, we discussed about how to do the RBM framework. We also have this how to create a research problem. So now we will be discussing the next chapter. Okay, it's the next chapter of how you, let's say, fulfill the 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 creation of your research. So uh, another announcement as well. I will be sending the attendance form later, 5 minutes before the time, so that you can fill it up. Okay, please tell me if nakita na ang presentation. Kitaan?
Nakita na,
Kita
sir.
na,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, nice. Okay, let's start. So let's talk about how do you write, or let's talk about writing the literature review or the review of the related literature. I know that you are familiar about this one because, again, you have done doing your research from the chapter 1 and 2, diba? So, although it is somewhat like, siya, no? Most of the output on your chapter 2 was theoretical, or let's say hypothetical. Okay, most of the information there are hypothetical, and of course, diba, you have spliced some of the informations coming from the other resources. But how do you write the literature review DI? So I hope it can help, no? I hope it can help you as you started creating your capstone research. So what is the process on doing the review or the literature review? Okay, so we're gonna highlight the word synthesis. Okay. So if you talk about a literature review, it is a synthesis of studies on any given topic. So if you talk about synthesis, you're talking about you're talking about a proper system. Okay? Something that is a backbone of your research. It's not just something that you can just research on the Google and then read it and then copy it and pasting it on your let's say paper, diba? So it has a process. Okay? Usually it precedes a full length of the original study as a way of introducing the general topic. So again, it is a backbone of the problem. Your research cannot stand alone without having this literature. Diba? Imagine if you have this problem and you don't have any brief let's say evidence on how will you conduct a research by just thinking on the possible things that you can do just to make sure that your research will lead to something that is beneficial, no, or fruitful. So it precedes a full length of original study. It is not just something that you have read. It has something to do with understand. It has something to do with how will you comprehend words by words, paragraph by paragraph on the articles or reference that you are trying to correlate your research. So what's the purpose? It is to help the reader understand the background to your study and see how it's the next logical study to be conducted in this domain. Okay? Research is, let's say, it's a continuous type of study. So the purpose of having this literature is to give a background on your study, or let's say, it is a proof, it's validating your study. Okay, by means of having this literature, it's totally validating your study already. For example, if you have this a research that talks about attitude, then you can have again references that can be from the psychological articles, or it can be something from any studies that is let's say that is on behavior of the student or any people or individual involved. It could be something that can help you at this time. Necessarily, a good literature review requires a thoroughly researched topic. So in this time, you are obliged to be a good reader. Okay? You are obliged to be a good reader. You have to read the full length of the article. You just don't read the first paragraph and then hypothetically say that, okay, this article is really something that I need. So it can support research throughout the study. No, it's not like that, di ba? You have to study, okay? You have to study it thoroughly. You don't require, you don't assume, okay? But just reading the first paragraph. And be prepared for writing. Okay, very important do not attempt to write a literature review. This process takes weeks and months. And yes, it's a month. Okay, it's a long process. Di ba, I gave you an example last time class on how other college students, especially here in Moist, no, especially those students that are not really into research. They are not informed about how research will be done. They're not informed on the process of doing the research. So an instructor will say, okay, for example, can you give me a sample problem and then please provide me chapter 1, 2, and 3. So what will be the college student with nothing, with no knowledge about research will do? Okay, what they will do is that they will just research the whole article. They will research this problem and then download the PDF, download the document, print it, then pass it to the professor or to the instructor without validating if that really was done by himself or herself, diba? So if you will compare it to a person, no, nag-about of customer research, it would take a full time just to create this literature. No man, sir, it will take months, man, it will take weeks, man. Because again, you have to compare. Let's say, for example, that's why dili ka pwede mag-ingon class na duha ra ka book ang inyong resources when it comes to your studies. No. You have to look furthermore on what articles or reference is really aligned and correlated to your study. Something that has a strong proof that will actually defend your study all throughout. No? Even on the methodology and on creating your conclusion, it should be something to do with yours as well. This is the reference. This is your source. Okay? This is the proof, no? So it involves a writing process. That's why kailangan niyo si paraphrasing, kailangan niyo si rephrasing. Hindi pwede nga inyo na siya kapihon diyan with kwan, with wala lang. You just splice the kwan, splice the article, then put it there. Okay? Even the kwan, di ba? Even the subject, the kanang reference, ginakopy ninyo. Bisa di siya subject sa inyong study. So, it's very obvious na inyo na siyang i-copy. Refrain on doing that. Let's talk about the preparations of the literature. Okay, there are numbers of preliminary steps to consider. You have to know whether the literature review will be or a qualitative. So either choice will determine your analysis on the statistics. So this from or most of the references coming from the internet, mga legit na, katong sources, no? Those are reliable resources. Most of them are providing this statistics, especially having this quantitative research. And if you're doing the same research sa inyong for example, on the article that you have researched, kung the same mo of prospect, it could be a good one. It could be it could be an advantage in your part, no? Because it means that that the research that you're doing is really it's legit. Okay? It is doable. So either way, it should emphasize one thing only, di ba? It's the product. You have to emphasize that the product is somewhat like the same sa imo or ikaw nga nagbuhat sa ng resource na imong gitwaan. Okay? It should be aligned. Okay? Dapat dala mo yung sa kago. The product is gonna be the same. And topic selection and narrowing. Okay, this is the point of research. Okay, because you'll be selecting the main topics of the literature or the article, and then you will narrow the idea of the author. Okay, so the author might have this broad vast ideas. The author might have different, let's say, different angle research. But you as a researcher, you have to consider the magnitude. Okay, what kind of magnitude is that, sir? You have to narrow the idea into its simplest form. That's the point of rewriting process, of paraphrasing. No, paraphrasing by the means of not totally cutting off the main idea of the article. You're just narrowing the main, no, the main idea of the research. So it's your job, no, as a researcher who tries to at least get some information coming from other references. And of course, most important, consider research, research, research. Okay, if you're not if dili ka takulan, no, you can do as many research as you can. You can do that one. So if you are ano bitang if ang kaya nimo walang resources, try to uh, dig more of the articles. You try to look for more articles. Okay? Balag dili kay siya ingon nga kuan, balag dili siya the same study. As long as content of this article is your study. Di ba? It will be okay because anyway, slowly para you will have this process of paraphrasing context. So what's the point? It's fun. It's better that you do it, no? Kaysa mura siyang tanaw nito sa article, imo rang i-highlight, then imo ipikit lang sa imong research. Okay, how do we do the topic selection? Of course, it should be something abroad. Okay, that's the main word about the topic selection. But the problem is, how can we possibly say, sir, that this article that I have searched is really correlated to our problem? That's the reason of reading. Okay, you have so some of us can work with our professor, or you can just ask a mentor. Okay, you have your advisor already, di ba? Si Ma'am Silva, and she's the one giving you idea on how you formulate your research questions, and from research questions, how are you going to define your research problem, etc. So to have a guide, no? To have a guidance coming from a person that is knowledgeable about the research. So for example, si Ma'am Silva Logar, no? So knowledgeable mo si Ma'am Silva sa inyong research. So she can be a good help as well. No? All of her advices can be your reference for your topic selection. So another thing also is that you have to examine a wide array of resources for ideas on the topic selection, considering the following: no? Textbooks, titles and abstracts of other articles, broad theories, di ba? Especially specific areas of your exploration, and the limitation. Okay, it's to find the niche of your one, no? To find the niche of your research. So how do you delimit? So you have the scope and limitation of your study, if I'm not mistaken, no? You have a scope and limitation of the study. So for example, you have to be subjective when it comes to this one. If you will choose your topic, you have to be subjective. Why do we need to be subjective when you're doing your research? First is you have to be more specific. Okay, if the idea of the author articles is so broad, narrow the idea of that article. Okay, so you can find topics coming from the books that is related to your problem, or let's say you wanted to create this research questionnaire, but don't have any idea how. So you can have these textbooks as your reference. Okay, and remember to brainstorm with other individuals. That's the point of the groupings. Di ba? You have what more brains is better than one. Okay, so you don't have to work alone. You don't have to publish your research alone. You have to work as a team. Okay, what if the idea of this person is better than yours, diba? So or the idea of your other members is more fruitful than yours. So it will be a good help as well, diba? It benefits both of the team. or each of the team. So, nasabta ng topic selection?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then I can proceed to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about research strategies. Okay, how do you strategize your research? Okay, let's one. Can I ask one daw ko na? Okay, JV. JV, are you there, JV? Hello, JV. Kabahar. Oh, sugod na ang kwan, nagsugod na ang mag-login lang tapos dili maminaw. How about you? Okay. How about you, Jovil? Jovil, are you there? Hello, Jovil. Ano ba katubag sa kwan? Sa polite. Okay, Melanie. Are you there, Melanie? Pedroso. Hello. Saan yung mga tao din sa kontay tao-tao lang? Na si Melanie Droso wala. Agay, pabsinan tamo sa akong ST. Sorry, pabsinan tamo. Dili ko kaagwan ko sa inyo ang kwan. Sa inyong batasan ngayon eh. Kanang tawagon mo din magtubag, wala mo mga kwan. Okay, how about you, Alexandra? Armando, are you there, Alexandra? Hello, Alexandra. Are you there?
The signal, sir, sa ganitong question.
Okay na sa mong pakutan ka na siya. Okay. So, Alexandra, do you have a strategy on doing your research? Do you have a strategy on how to do your research? Hello, Alexandra. Can you answer the question or
Sir?
I will call others? Okay. Nadunggan mo akong question kanina?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a strategy na on how will you do your research? Can you share an idea
Kuan,
or
sir. Kanang mag-read sa kaning mga sites nga kaning connected sa imong research nga kuan topic.
okay. So research kuha ninyo ha, collecting mo
Yes,
sa
sir.
research. Okay, gathering of research mo for your studies. Okay, thank you so much, Alexandra. How about sa inyo, how about you, Elijah?
Yes, sir.
Elijah, are you the same group with Kuan, Alexandra?
Sir?
Are you the same group with Alexandra?
Dili,
Are
sir.
you in the same group? Oh, dili. So, sa inyong group, Elijah, do you have a strategy already on how to do your research?
Kan sir, para sa ako, sir, kay ka na imo sa estadihan yun ang imong topic, sir, kay dili dapat ka magdiretso og himo sa imong hangkuan kay para dili ka magbalik-balik.
Sa inyong grupo, do you have a strategy on how will you do your research?
Dili,
Sa
sir,
inyong, sa
estadihan
inyong,
yun
na,
ang topic
sa
crafting.
inyong grupo. Okay. So, you do the reading and drafting.
Yes, sir.
Walang strategies yung grupo. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for those who answered. Okay, so actually on doing your research class, you have to at least plan some strategies on how. Because if you don't have any strategies at all, you will be left behind on the things that you are supposed to do to make your research effective. So imagine a research without strategy. Diba? You will be fulfilling nothing but a zero siguro or that is buhat lang. Okay? And it's not a good help sa yung research. Okay? So here are the things that you need to consider, when you have these strategies on doing research. Like first, do not develop an outline at this stage. Okay, thank you. It has something to do with Alexander's answer. No, research first. Okay, and then the answer of also of Elijah. No, then outline later, or you do the drafting after these. Okay, so you have to point out first what are the possible ideas or terms that is really helpful to make your research more effective. So for example, if the literature that you have picked out from the internet it's too weak, no, to be to help you research more on the process, on the matter of process. So try to remove that weakest part of your let's say research. Okay, the research or the thing that you have researched that it's too weak, no, to support your study. So you have to again read. Okay, if you have this amazing title coming from the internet nga, somewhat like related sa imuha, you have to make sure that it does not does not jump some kanang it doesn't conclude something that is kanang bitang it's not kanang non-relatable sa imuhang topic. Okay? Some of them good is very kanang some of them are very deceiving. Okay? Abi ni mo na siya yung article, imo na lang git ang title, oy, same og title sa amo ah. Pag open ng article, copy paste ka diretso lang, no? No, you have to do some outline. You have to at least pick some topics that's related. Another, use your force to help you keep your research organized. Okay? A reference works to how will you organize your you have research already. And professional intersection process. Peer-reviewed articles are a big deal. How will you be a professional researcher? And how will you do the professional section resources or sources? Of course, you have to make sure that the let's say the online site is reliable. Okay? We don't recommend Wikipedia. We don't recommend Wiki Answer, How Wiki, uh, those let's say pages or sites that are actually asking other people's idea or that is repetitive, no. So you can't you don't those are resources that are not really not that is those are not reliable at all because they can edit by the end. Yeah, pwede naman ang contents article. Unlike those very reliable actually articles are coming from universities, universities, published articles, published books. Articles are made by some doctors or masters or and if each of you have discovered or have researched already a sample literature, try to have a review. Okay? Compare notes, di ba? You have to compare notes. O, basta hindi, ang kauban mo, siya yung na-research, ang isa siya yung na-research, ang isa siya na-pod. And then you combine those ideas and then you paraphrase everything. Then, din mo yung literature. Okay? So, another thing is also databases are the most resource for a literature review assignment. Okay? For example, abstract databases are helpful if used. Be sure to order the articles. You can't cite from mere abstract in your paper. You just read and cite the entire article. So part of your research is doing the abstract. The abstract is not your introduction. Okay? The abstract is the highlight of your research. No? So on the abstract consists of how for example, the reader will not dead on the first thing that he will read your research on until the last thing that happened on your research. So, mura siya reading the introduction and also, uh, let's say, presenting the result. It should be something that is let's say positive dapat, no? It should be something that is positive. You don't include in your abstract about that one, about the negative effect of your research. It has something to do with how beneficial your research will be to the reader. Okay, and okay, cast your net wide. Remember to use your databases thesaurus to explore more options for research, and use every research tool available to you. Google Scholars can be useful as well. If your professor allows internet research, do it. So, okay. So just don't forget to include or to cite the author. Okay, don't forget to include the citations of the articles that you have, let's say, spliced out from the internet, the textbook that you have read already, let's say the publisher. You do not forget to include them in your research or in your writings and your literature. Okay, let's proceed on evaluating, interpreting your research. Okay. Uh, one more thing also, no, in the research strategies, some of the literature in a good class, some of the resources might be foreign, okay, a foreign literature, and some of them are local literature. So some of, I think it is one of the one of the common thing that the other researcher will do is that they'll include uh, asa nga lugar or most of the time unsa na siya let's say uh unsa siya or ang reference na po. So some of the literature will include the quiet, the foreign, some of the resources come foreign or from the outside the Philippines. And if you talk about local, those things that you have researched in on your vicinity or let's say inside the Philippines is because some of these also some of them are conducted in the Philippines. And maybe some of the researchers that you have already were really Filipinos or the Filipinos are the contributor. So how about evaluating and interpreting your interpreting research? Okay, ensure information is both accurate and biased. Uh, when can you say that your research is accurate and unbiased? Sige daw. Let's conversation. Can I have a word with Pavilion? Hope.
Sir,
Hello, Hope. Are you the Hope? Okay.
sir,
Hope, when can you say that your okay? When can you say, Hope, that your research is accurate and unbiased? Hope, did you hear my question? Hope,
sir, putol-putol ka, sir.
putol ka?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When can you say, Hope, that your research is accurate and unbiased? Can I
Um,
answer, Hope, or
I, I could say that my research is unbiased and accurate, sir, if the information in our research is really cited, sir, if the research is legit and kanang accurate yun, sir, kanang na kuha ginamo nga sakto to nga mga informations.
okay? Okay. Thank you, Hope. How about fine? Thank you so much for your idea, Hope. How about you, Karel? Utkon. Karel, are you there, Karel? Karel, Kim, Butkon. Hello, Karel. Ano, pwede ko tubag sa polite. Okay. How about you, kanang Intia? Justin? Hello, Justin. Nga di magtubag ang uban? I'm trying to have this I'm trying to have an interactive class pero dili mo tubag. Okay, nara si JV wala kabahar.
Sir,
Okay, JV. When can you say that your research is accurate and unbiased? When? Again, when can you say that your research is accurate and unbiased?
Sir, daghang may gikuan na mga tao nga kuan
Sa na mga
gi-question.
sa nga tao?
Daghang may kuan og side nga kuan sa about some research gipangutana ana sir.
Okay. So thank you so much for that, JV. Okay, so from conclusion. So I guess it is not no inaccurate. It is full of bias. Pasabot na one-sided lang ang research. So again, you have to weigh, 'di ba? Timbangon nimo. You have to weigh the information. Okay? Do not be deceived by just the title. You have to make sure no that the content and the title is really aligned. Behind that article. And I don't think that the article that you have read is really reliable at all. 'Di ba? So, how to make sure or how will you evaluate that one? You have to stick on the peer-reviewed sources only. That's the main idea of having the group. No, you are sharing ideas, you are brainstorming, you are creating valuable assets. Okay, you are valuable assets in your group. Each one has an idea on how to come up with an answer, how to come up with how he or she did the interpretation of his or her research. Okay, so it's very worth repeating. Okay, it's very fruitful to have a very kind of it's a very igniting moment to have this peer reviewed because imagine a person with such mind no, that can actually create this amazing idea out from nowhere. Okay, summative resources also can be very up to date and therefore can be especially useful if statistics are required. I think the older the study, the more it is accurate. Okay, let's say that one for example. Uh, you have a study, you have research a study that was conducted way back 10 years ago, and then you have also researched the same title of that published article 10 years ago. Nga nakuan siya no, someone restudied that research. And then the question is, which article will you choose? Okay, are you going to choose the older one or the newest? So the answer there is that you have to do some comparing of notes. Okay, you have to do some thorough reading. What if the study 10 years ago is the same study that he or she did on the present? Okay, there might be possibility siguro that some of the articles there some of the articles there, siguro the content siguro na is still the same. But the problem is that the newest, let's say the newest study is iya lang gi-wide, no? Iya lang tagaan niya proof ba. Okay, that's the point of the research mapud kid class. Okay, diba? At the end of our research, we have the recommendation. No, we are recommending our research to the public because we wanted other researcher to at least, if you are not satisfied of my result, then try to restudy my research. And after restudying my research, then you can have your own conclusion. Just to make sure that the conclusion that you have made is something relatable to what I have done. Okay, you don't have to change the whole article. Okay, sample sa inyo halogang capstone research, no, you have these various titles, and then uh panabitang I, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure that the title that you have made was, let's say, ika 100,000 na siya nga title out of the universal titles. Okay, universal titles na lang, okay, basin na buhat na sa laing mga lugar ang inyong research. But as long as you're doing or conducting your own research, as long as you are processing your own research, there's nothing wrong about it, di ba? Because you have your own interpretation. Next is be guarded against any research that claims to prove an idea, okay, and equivocal results that are rare. So, some of the researcher might say that, ako man ang research, why are you restudying that one? Ako man ang research, why are you taking out of, why are you creating another content? Are you revising my research? Are you that desperate, no, to revision, let's say, revisionized my study. Okay, so wala lang ka nga, I am not trying to I'm not trying kanang, let's say, I'm not trying to change the content of your study. I was just trying to broaden the idea that is inside your study. So as a researcher, you have to be open-minded about that one. Okay? So the idea there is that you are not allowed to change the whole article. For example, you're allowed to paraphrase, you're allowed to rephrase the content, but you are not allowed to change the whole context. Okay, you are not allowed to do so. So what will you do is that you will just take out some important ideas and then try to create your own, you say, try to create your own comment, or try to kind of, to at least, no, create your own statement out of that context. And then next, consider each study's methods, measurements, and significance to evaluate whether you should use it. That's the point of the evaluating, Mampod, because some of the content or the context inside that article is not really necessary. That's why gani on every 10 paragraphs of your research, of the research article that you have studied, only two or three there is aligned to your research. So the whole seven paragraph there is just something that you can remove. Okay, just remove those paragraph because those are nonsense. Okay. Anyways, those seven paragraphs that you have removed, you can rewrite that one. In what particular manner will you rewrite that, sir? That's the point of paraphrasing the context. Okay, you are doing, or you are suggesting, you are creating your own comment, you're creating your own statement, just to just you have to make sure that those comments that you have made is really articulated. It's just not something that you have done just because you wanted flowery words na mahimong content sa imong research. No, it should be something that is articulated, and at the same time it is based from the real resources. Okay, you have also to make sure that what you have in mind is really aligned to the study that you have conducted. And of course, take caution when you are encountering research studies, especially qualitative research studies that attempt to show casuality. I'm sorry, it's causality. Okay. Remember the Kwan class? Remember what the topic that I had last time about Kwan, about the Kwan, the, let's say, the consequence of your research. Okay. Everything has a consequence, my good. Okay. That's why you have to take some precautionary measures. In what particular way are we going to be cautious, sir? Possible siguro, no, when you are taking down notes, or you are splicing some kwan, you are splicing some information coming from the articles of other publisher, you have to make sure that you are citing you are citing the author. Let's say, or you have written there, or you have included there the site, and was properly it is properly kind of uh how do I call this one? It was properly cited. Okay, it was properly cited. You are following the right let's say uh formula, no, on citing the publisher or even the site that you have used. The problem ng Godia, when you are not so cautious on doing your literature, is that once magbabasa na siya sa, for example, you have to publish by your research pa. And what if one of the publisher nabasa to niya ang iyahang ang part sa iyang research, so that will lead you to an act of plagiarism. How will you defend yourself? So tumingin ka nga, uh, ako ang mana siya nasa utok naman na ako. Your mind is not your mind, ang imong utok is dili siya pa imong evidence or proof nga you did not really copy the whole context of the research sa other nga publisher. So wala kay choice kundi to admit, no? Because even if you defend your statement, okay, that you have done it all by yourself, or you have invented it, no, the problem is that word by word the publisher, the owner, knows it, diba? Because he or she is the one who created that context. So you have no choice but to admit that you have really copied everything. So you have to be cautious about it. If possible, be subjective, class. What do you mean by subjective? You have to make sure that the respondents of your research was there. Okay? So kung ang owner, for example, of the article that you have spliced talks about students, then change that name into something. Uh, Imbes na magamit ka og students, you will use this sample individuals, di ba? Or let's say, if yung sample is about, let's say, some professionals are the samples, like teachers, then you can change the subject. You can make it engineers, no, doctors, or any people or any individuals that will be involved in your research. You can change it as long as it will not sound like it was plagiarized. Okay? Nasabtan ng evaluating and interpreting your research.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay, you have to be vigilant about this one. Next is organizing and outlining. Okay, a very organized research will lead you to very constructive and effective research, literature and review class. Okay, because the point of organizing the thought is where you are actually presenting the whole idea of your research. No, so how do we organize? Sometimes we organize it by how we actually interpret our variables in our research. That's why you have to know the variables of your research. Okay? You just don't put variables there because it's a requirement. No, you should know the point of those variables, because those are the things that you need to consider when you are doing the literature, especially the key terms. Okay? I want you to apply projecting the key terms of your research. Unsay key terms, sir? Kada bitong mga terms bitaw nga dili siya definition of terms, ha. Kada mga key terms na possible pwede nung makitaan sa other article that is actually aligned to your research. Okay? But how do we do the organize and the outlining? Okay, let your outline flow from your research. For example, good organization begins with the consensus research. Okay? Those research that are not forced. Okay? Something that are consensus. Okay? Out of conscience ng mga research. Okay? So, if you are a good researcher, you will actually follow the right process. Okay, next. Take thorough research notes. Begin grouping your sources by topic, delimitation, and chronology. Make files on large table, literally. So choose the best reference. Okay, and then of course read each of those articles so that you can begin concluding which research will be included and which is not. Pay extremely good attention to key condition to okay, this is what I meant. To key definitions as you do your research. Okay? You have to be mindful about the key terms. That's the good strategy that you can do. Establish which studies are going to be most important for your review. Take more thorough notes on the studies. So you have to establish studies not out of the context but in content. So you don't do the literature just by yourself, di ba? Uh, Again, although you can create your own opinion, you can create your own statement, but it should be based from the reliable resources and based from the reliable readings that you have done. Next, however, avoid too many quotations in your notes. For example, Dr. Foss allows only 1 to 2 quotations maximum. Learn to paraphrase well. This is what I'm telling you guys. Paraphrasing. Okay? If you are good in writing, you can actually paraphrase everything. If you are if you are too imaginative but creative, you can do the paraphrasing as well. Okay? It will be more effective if you are creative. And of course, you have to be constructive at the same time. No? And you have to make sure that the information also is organized. Because if the content of your research is very bombarded, okay, it's topsy turvy, your research will lead to nothing. I'm telling you, it will be a balloons of ideas, but no specific thought. And di ba? You can have the balloons of ideas class, but you cannot have a specific thought. Okay, that's the point of that's the reason why you don't just copy pasting everything. Okay, you have to do some readings, Jude. Is because you can have a basket of ideas, but you have to make sure that one of it is very ripe. Okay? Like, di ba naay kasabihan nga, isa usa pa na ka hinog diha, kung naay isa ka daot, madaot yun na tanan. No? Okay. Create a topic outline before you begin the drafting. Thank you so much for that idea, Elijah, ganina, no? That just like what Elijah said. You do the reading and the drafting. You just don't put everything there exactly as what it is. You have to do some drafting. Remove unnecessary things. In your literature introduction, on doing your literature reviews introduction, you have to remember the following class. Please take note. Identify the topic, establish the topic's importance, define any crucial terms, and engage in any theoretical discussions that are necessary for the logic of your literature review. I think it's very objectified naman siguro Danny class that these are the things that you need to consider when you're doing your literature. Uh, Again, the importance of minding the essence of your literature is very important. Okay, you have to impart, no, not just a student but also a researcher. Arrange the raw research. This part of outlining will be considerably easier if you've done a good job organizing the data and the data ahead of time. And remember, logical cohesion and flow are vital. So if you don't have a very cohesive mind, if you don't have a very constructive mind, you will lead to nothing but a desperate and unproductive research. I'm telling you. So please, okay, please do some, please strategize some everything. Okay, on the drafting strategies, I will just read the important note, the highlight here. First, you have to develop a logical progression. Okay. Okay. How do you do the logical progression? Actually, you don't detain yourself in just one specific idea. You have to make sure that the content of your literature is progressing. Okay. In what way man siya mo progress, day, sir? That's why again, you have to impart something. Okay. You don't just rely on every words that is in the article. Try to impart. Okay. Try to paraphrase. Make it your own. Di ba? Although it will sound like you have plagiarized something, but as long as you have your own words that is defining the content of your research, then there's nothing wrong about that. Okay? Because at the same time, you're a researcher. It's the same. You are the same person as what the published article is. Di ba? Next, demonstrate consistencies in and relationships between the literature you've studied. Emphasize strong studies. You have to have a better measurements or more consistent methods over ones that are weaker. It's just like I've said, no, you have to emphasize a strong reference rather than the weak reference, and make implications of your informations and any suggestion for further research as specific as possible. Okay, so I think it's very easy to understand the drafting strategies because draft sa ka, no, do not encode everything first. You have to draft sa sulat sa ka, rewrite. Okay, I will not discuss anymore the introduction and conclusion because uh, medyo kung ano kayo siya. I will discuss this one siguro uh, next time. So, any questions about how to write the literature review? None?
None so far, sir.
None so far? So, everything is clear. I hope so. Okay, so if there's no question, thank you so much for listening. I will send na lang siguro di Kwan. Okay. Sorry. Isa na ako na rin sa Kwan, sa comment section ang link sa form. Kaya Kwan na lang siguro, please. Fill this out. Okay? If there's no question, thank you so much for listening and see you next time. Okay? Bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Hi, sir.
Okay. Comment na ako ang form. Kindly click na lang siguro. Okay. Thank you so much, Philip. Okay, thank you, everyone.